Salute, man. It's Boxing Nocturnal Thoughts back at you with another video. This video was inspired by the real Marlo TV, man. Salute. I watched the video he did earlier today, and go check out his channel and go look at his video, because he's providing the picture that was on Bud's social media platform of him with his son and I believe his father. You know what I'm saying? And it looked like Terrence Bud Crawford has bulked up and yoked up some. First of all, I gotta say, I think that was his father. The real Marlo thought that was his father. I'm looking at the video, I'm looking at the picture, and I think that's his father. And I have to salute that. Bow. I always love to see, you know, any kind of legacy with a man and his son. That's just, to me, I never could ever, in no kind of shape, form, or fashion, look at that in a negative light. See the father and the son, and then the grandson, that's always dope. But you can see genetically where Terrence Bud Crawford, you know, gets some of his genes from. And, you know, his dad just naturally is an athletic person, as well as he is, and as well as his sons are. And I believe his daughter is too, right? Now, also in comparison to Errol Spence, I look at his genetics, and he got some good genetics too in his family. I look at his father, his genetics almost remind me more of my genetics, to be honest. Is his father still, to me, he doesn't look like he works out or anything like that anymore, but you can see he's still bigger than Errol Spence is. You know what I'm saying? Terrence Bud Crawford looked like he was bigger than his father. Kind of remind me of like me. My father, God rest in peace, my father always was bigger than me. Even at my biggest, I never got as big and yoked up and jacked up as my dad. He just was genetically, I'm just cut from his cloth, but I never got as big as he is. Naturally, he just was a big dude. My grandfather, my uncles, cousins, my brothers, they just big dudes. So, anyway, so what I'm saying is, Terrence Bud Crawford, genetically and naturally, you can tell he's a smaller guy, kind of like his father. For him to be in this picture, he looked a little bulked up, and you know, the inquiring minds want to know, has he bulked up with the intentions of, you know, being a different version of himself against Errol Spence? You know, he talked about fighting Jermell Charlo, which I think would be to his demise. But let me stay on my subject. Is bulking up a great idea for Terrence Bud Crawford if he's bulking up? Because that's not confirmed. It's just a picture, first of all. It's just a picture, and in the picture he looked a little bigger. First of all, he's standing next to his son, which is going to make him look bigger. And he's standing next to his father, and his father is a little smaller, but he cut. And it makes Terrence Bud Crawford, in a way, look a little bulkier. You know what I'm saying? Just a little bigger. So if he's bulking up for this Errol Spence fight, do I think that's going to be a benefit to him, or to a detriment to him, or is it going to be a positive or a negative? Because in boxing, bulking up is still a very debatable conversation. Is it a pro or a con, or is it a good thing or a bad thing, or even Steven? Because it just kind of depends, man. So when I think back and I look at different boxers that have bulked up, sometimes it aided them well, and sometimes it wasn't the right play. Like, okay, for example, to me, from me seeing boxing growing up, one of the best good examples of bulking up, working out great, was Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield used to be small, and he bulked up. He was training with Lee Haney, 5, 6, 7-time Mr. Olympia, and he bulked up, and he went out there and took over the heavyweights, beat Buster Douglas, became a champion, and he was fighting big dudes, and always put on a great, spectacular performance. But I've also seen bulking up not work out so well. Like, even looking at Keith Thurman. If you look at Keith Thurman when he fought Sean Porter, when you look at Keith Thurman when he fought Danny Garcia, and you look at the version of Keith Thurman that just fought Mario Barrios, I mean, this dude's shoulders, it almost reminded me, his whole development, his body looked totally different, Keith Thurman. he obviously bulked up. And it reminded me of the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton, the dude that played the Abomination, when he first got that first injection, and he, after Incredible Hulk kicked him and it broke every bone in his body, and then he started to regenerate, and he showed him, it was CGI, of course, but it showed how his body was all ripped up and striated, but he was still small. He wasn't the Abomination yet. That's what Keith Thurman was looking like against Mario Barrios. But he didn't knock out Mario Barrios. He busted up his face, but he didn't knock him out. I just watched that fight, and his power just didn't seem like he had a whole lot of power like Tank Davis, who had just knocked out Mario Barrios. And then when I compare him when he fought Danny Garcia, just the way he was able to throw his punches and be on his toes and his mobility and everything, to me, Keith Thurman didn't look bad against Mario Barrios, but that extra packed on muscle, I don't know if it made him a better fighter versus Mario Barrios. Time will tell. I want to see Keith Thurman again against anybody, Boots Ennis, to see what that looked like. But then, you know, I also remember guys bulking up and then not working out at all for him, like Fernando Vargas. When Fernando Vargas bulked up to fight Oscar De La Hoya, the Golden Boy, that didn't work out at all for Fernando Vargas to bulk up. You know what I'm saying? Roy Jones Jr. bulking up, but he went up to the heavyweights to fight John Ruiz, and you could see even then it made him a different fighter. Now, he outboxed John Ruiz, who is kind of slow and wasn't the greatest heavyweight, but when he came back down, it was to his detriment. You know, we all know Antonio Tarver, first fight, second fight, etc. We know how that story worked out, but we know how that story started with him bulking up. It just never suited Roy Jones to bulk up to 190 something pounds, and then when he came back down, it was to his demise. That's different for Terrence Bud Crawford. If he really bulked up to fight Jermell Charlo, it would make a little bit more sense to me. But if he's bulking up to fight ESJ, I'm scratching my head a little bit, because I don't know if that's the right move for him. I don't know how that's going to play. I'll be honest, I can't make up my mind. I feel like it's going to be pros and cons. I think it's going to be benefits, and it's going to be things that might take away from him. When I watch his old fights against Victor Postal and Hammer and Hank Lundy and Gamboa and Ricky Burns and you know, Jose Benavidez, and then his last recent fights against Sean Porter and the Mean Machine and Kell Brook, when I see his style and the way he's naturally built up, to me, him bulking up, he might be able to absorb punches a little better. He looked a little top heavy in that picture. I don't know if it would slow him down or put him a half step behind what he used to be. I don't know if it's going to increase his power. It should increase his power. It should. Him bulking up, he's a different type of an athlete. And I've seen him do Bruce Lee kicks and, you know, pick up deadlift 400 pounds and et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, he knows what type of athlete he is. So him bulking up, him and his team, if that's their game plan, they know better than I know how that's going to affect him. I could only speculate. And I can't really speculate one way or another way, to be honest. I'm 50-50 on it. But if I had to land on anything, I would land on that not being the best idea for him to bulk up to fight Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. naturally being a bigger guy. I've seen him depleted and skinny, and I've seen him full, but I have never seen him bulk up. I'm not going to see Errol Spence bulk up until he moves up into the 160, because 154 is probably going to be more of his natural walking around weight, kind of like, you know, Danny Garcia didn't really bulk up to fight 154. He really missed weight. He was small. But ESJ is a bigger dude, so when he goes up to 154, that's going to be a little bit of an increase, more natural, more comfortable. When he goes up to 160 or whatever, then you kind of see him probably really bulk up, probably bulking up to $190 before he cuts back down. But my thing about Terrence Bud Crawford, when I look at him in his weigh-in against Sean Porter, that's probably as perfect, as peaking have I ever seen from an athlete. The way he looked on the scale against Sean Porter, to me, that was like a peak, an absolute peak. naturally, he just looked perfect. I don't see that same play if he was to bulk up and then still cut down to that 147 and then rehydrate. I don't know what the product would be from that. I would have to see, to be honest. But in my mind, the cons would outweigh the pros, in my opinion. I think it would slow him down and take away a little bit of his flexibility, his mobility. Like Deontay Wilder is another guy we've seen bulk up. Deontay Wilder looked best when he was in the first fight against Tyson Fury, and he weighed 212 pounds on the scale. And then the day before the fight, he weighed even less, 209 pounds. And he looked way better than he looked when he bulked up to 230. And then in the third fight, he bulked up again, and it just really didn't serve him well. And Deontay Wilder is genetically similar, bigger, taller Terrence Bud Crawford, in my opinion. So bulking up for some people, to me, works, and bulking up for some people don't. It's like one of those things where it's going to always be debatable because it's going to have different outcomes. In my opinion, if Terrence Bud Crawford is bulking up for Errol Spence, time will tell how that plays out, but I think that would give an advantage in the long run. I think it would give the advantage to Errol Spence. And if he comes in 100% and he's looking at Terrence Bud Crawford comes in bulkier, I think it'll make him more of a front runner. And down the stretch, I think he would fade a little bit, and probably just enough for Errol Spence to do the same thing that he did to Yordenis Ugas. You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion, but you let me know what your opinion is. This is Boxing Nocturnal Thoughts. I salute everybody out there. Like I said, go check out the Real Marlo TV from Nocturnal. I salute. Bow. Oh yeah, subscribe to the channel.